Hey, Next Levelers, Bob Gibbons here, The Next Level Show. We're excited to have you. And every week we get together and we talk about business, right? Entrepreneurship. How do you start companies? Why do you start companies? What happens after you start it? You know, because there's an awful lot of things you got to do after you start it to make sure it's a success. So we bring in entrepreneurs into the studio. We talk to them about how they've built things, why they've built things, what's worked, what hasn't, what are the challenges they've overcome, and how they've become successful. And so today is no different, and I'm excited that Rita Santamaria is with us today, and she is the owner and founder of Champion School of Real Estate. They're based in Houston, although they have operations throughout the state of Texas and beyond. And they're really in the specialty of helping people create their next career. And so I'm excited about this. I'm actually a user of Champion School of Real Estate myself, as is my wife and many, many, many people I know. And so I have a long history with Champions, even though Rita doesn't know that. She's finding this out for the first time. So I will give you my critique and my review of her school as we are live on the radio.
It better be good. I flew up early this morning.
Well, Rita, thank you for coming up here and being on the show.
You're so welcome. It's my pleasure. And I am so thankful for your business. I always tell everyone, without your business, we don't have one. And that's
right.
The truth. So thank you. And thank you to your wife as well.
Well, we're excited about it because Champion School of Real Estate is pretty much what it sounds like. It is a school for real estate. So your primary customer is who?
Well, the primary customer is someone who is listing and selling houses or land or office buildings. Mm-hmm. And that's the primary business is for real estate agents and then people who want to go further, be a broker, either to open their own office or to add what we call a designation next to their name, which is broker associate. But over the years, I added next mortgage lending. So we train people who want to be loan officers, mortgage brokers, and then after that, appraisers. We are national for mortgage lending. We're national for appraisal. And then we have professional inspection, and our inspectors can inspect residential or commercial property.
Wow. So all things real estate.
All things real estate related.
Do all of those disciplines require a license?
Yes.
Okay,
yes.
so
Every
a mortgage broker has to have a license.
Yes.
And is that from, you said national for a couple of things, but you didn't mention national for some other things. Is that because some things are licensed through the state only and other things are national?
Absolutely. So you're our accelerated student at Champions. To be a loan officer or mortgage broker, it's licensed nationally through NMLS. And because it's a national agency, we were able, with our submission of all of the forms and everything necessary to get approved nationally, that allowed us to, with our online people, to get the courses all approved around the U.S. That allowed us to be national. On the real estate side, you have to apply to each state. And each state has a different group of requirements.
Don't you just hate that?
I do, but we're really good at filling out forms.
Yeah, you must be. You must. I mean, I can't even imagine how many forms you fill out, how many times you connect to, I mean, just the state of Texas.
Yes.
Texas Real Estate Commission, much less other states.
Yes.
I mean, you guys have to have
It's incredible, and it's
an incredible
ongoing.
Process.
Because every one of our courses, which are well over 800, they all have to be renewed. They all have to be approved. So, and I didn't even mention appraisal because appraisal is national. So it's the same idea. We get approved by the national group, and then we just submit all of the courses to get approved per state. So, yes, the amount of forms, state agencies, national agencies, it's huge.
Interesting. Yeah, I've said for many, many years two things. I wish there was a separate license for commercial versus residential.
Yes.
I think that would be very wise because
makes
I have no
sense.
business doing residential. They have no business doing commercial.
Exactly.
And I also wish there was a national license because in my client's case, my clients may have offices all over the place.
Yes.
And so I have to be licensed in Texas to represent them in Texas. But then if I want to do a deal in Denver or Seattle or you name it, I have to
do it
do it
during a-
according to that state's rules, which
Exactly.
may include me not being allowed to show up.
You got it.
And in fact, I've done a deal in St. Thomas Virgin Islands, which is a U.S. territory. They have their own real estate commission. I've done deals in other states, and I always call that real estate commission in those states to make sure I'm doing things appropriate to their rules. And the first thing they almost always tell me is, don't even think about setting foot in this state while you're doing this deal, because you will be violating the law. So
You
that
have
means
to do it through an agent.
I have
as
to
a
either partner with
referral.
somebody or I have to do it
Exactly.
all from here or whatever. And it's a major pain.
It is.
Do you think that would ever change?
I hope so. I don't think so.
I don't think so either.
States are very particular about their idea on what's important for their state on the licensing side. But when you see how smoothly it works for NMLS, the National Mortgage Registry for loan officers,
Okay.
it works like a breeze. Now, each state might add 2 hours, 3 hours, 4 hours on the side for state specific.
Okay.
But you get a national license number, and that's what you're looking for on real estate. And I think it would be really nice as well.
Yeah, I agree. I don't think it'll ever happen just because there's
I
too
really
much of
don't
a
either. I really
structure
don't.
and
But we can never
fiefdom.
say never, but it doesn't look really positive.
We can say not in our lifetimes.
We can probably say that.
Yeah, we both, as long as you and I have both been in this business, it's not likely that
We
it'll
can
happen.
say that. I'll take probably out of the picture.
Well, yeah, it would be nice. But so whenever you are starting this business,
Yes.
you actually were a teacher in the
I
school
was.
system. What were you teaching in the school system?
I was teaching high school, and I only taught for 2 years, and then I was a homebound instructor for students that had been injured and couldn't go to school.
Oh, wow.
So I went like house to house to the kids that were hurt, and I was so young and so naive, and I really just thought, this is not really for me. I don't see myself doing this forever. Just because I felt as though there were so many things about being a teacher in the public school system and being young.
Mhm.
You're not going to get respect. You're going to find it very difficult to really reach that golden apple, so to speak. At least I felt that way.
Right.
So right away, I happened to confer with my dad, who was always an entrepreneur, and said, I don't think my lifetime career is being a public school teacher.
Yeah.
And my dad said, why don't you try real estate? And that particular defining moment, I just thought, well, why not? And it happened in Plano, Texas,
Oh, just up the street.
just up the street.
That's where I live. That's where my office is. A lot of my clients.
And I love Plano and love doing business here. And just thought, well, if I can make as much money selling real estate and having the freedom of my hours as I did as a public school teacher, which, by the way, at that time, it was a little over $20,000 a year.
You were getting rich.
It was really sad. And the first 9 months selling real estate, I exceeded what I made as a public school teacher. And I loved it because I also had 2 young children, a baby and a toddler, and I was able to pretty much call my hours.
Yeah.
And it was just very, very positive for me, the transition.
Yeah, I don't doubt it. I mean, there are a lot of benefits to being a teacher. One, just if that's where you feel like your mission in life is, so that's great. That's very noble. You get great benefits,
Exactly.
good retirement, all those kinds of things. But if you're looking for flexibility, unlimited income, lots of other things like that.
And don't
no.
misunderstand me. You have to find your niche as a teacher.
Yeah.
So when I went into real estate, and then I was asked to teach a real estate course to adults, that was the turning point.
Who asked you to do that?
We had a family transfer to Houston, and the Houston Community College, I don't know how they got my name to this day. I just love them to death for finding me. And they asked me to teach a real estate course. So my background in teaching mixed with my short experience, only a little over 2 years in real estate. I put the two together. And my very first class, I fell in love with teaching real estate. I just hadn't found my niche for teaching
Nice.
yet.
What a great combination of your previous
It
training
is.
and what you came to love.
It's been a passion. It is a passion.
So you taught that class at the Houston Community College.
Yes.
And how many kids did you have in that class?
I had over 50 adults.
Oh, adults. So this was continuing ed.
This was, no, it was actually pre-licensing. But the average age of our new student is 52 years old.
At Champions or
All
at Houston?
over the USA.
Oh, wow.
And
52.
yes. And my class was really sort of an adjunct type class for adults. So I walked in my, I guess, middle 20s and taught this class on real estate law, if you can believe that, and was rather scared, but loved what I was teaching. And with my 2 years experience, which today I can say was very little experience to be teaching that class, but they loved it. They gave me high reviews. I loved it. And I drove in my big old Cadillac because at that point, you always, if you were an agent, had a very large car.
You got to fake it till you make it, baby.
And I drove my car to Austin to the Texas Real Estate Commission and asked, what do I do to become a real estate school?
After one class at the community college.
I was in love with it, yes.
So you had this epiphany like almost immediately.
I did, immediately.
That's incredible.
And they have such a very stringent requirement
Okay.
that my background in teaching and learning how to plan and do, planning for school and courses, that really,
Made the
really helped
difference.
me. Mhm.
Cool. All right. We're going to take a quick break, though, and we'll be right back.
Okay.
Welcome back to the Next Level Show. I'm Bob Gibbons, your host, and I'm talking to Rita Santamaria. She is the founder of Champions School of Real Estate, and they have locations all over Texas: Houston, Dallas, Fort Worth, Austin, San Antonio, and beyond. And you can find them online at championschool.com. Make sure there's two S's in there. Champions is plural, and school.com. So we were just talking about how you got into this business. And so you traipsed down after teaching one course at a community college. You go to the real estate commission and say, how do I do this?
Exactly.
What kind of reception did you get from them?
I got a great big manila envelope with lots of things in it. Forms. We talked about forms a little
Yes.
while ago. And I had to put a business plan together. I had to find space. I had to give them all the reasons why I should possibly be a school, because they're so concerned about the protection of the public, as they should be. It turned out at that time, I also had a very good friend who had my same background. She was in real estate, and she also had been a school teacher in California. So together we put our brains together, our school teacher processes together, and filled out everything, thought it was absolutely perfect, found curriculum, found teachers, and then went to the commission meeting, and we got turned down at 2 different meetings. They are very, very careful about the fact that if you're going to be a provider, you better have all of your I's dotted, your T's crossed, and you better know what the heck you're doing. And
So what was the problem? What did they not like?
Well, they wanted to make sure that we had capable instructors, including ourselves.
Sure.
They wanted to make sure we had a place for classes that was going to be safe, healthy. We had to tell them where the restrooms were, how many, how big the classrooms were. But mainly it was our curriculum. And my former partner and I, being teachers, were able to do lesson plans, curriculum, find books, national books, and do that. And I always tell my family, I tell new agents, you really connect the dots backwards. Looking backwards, had I not been a teacher, Florida State University, I would not have known how to put lesson plans together. I would not have known how to find curriculum. And so being able to draw from that, they just wanted to make sure it was absolutely good for the state of Texas. and the rest is history. That was 1983.
So it sounds like, in a way, I understand all the things that they're doing, but it also sounds a little bit like they're just trying to make it difficult just to make sure you really wanted to do it. And you were willing to go through all the
want to
hassle.
make sure you're sincere. Absolutely.
That's so nice of them.
Absolutely.
Don't you love the
I
government?
appreciate it today. I really
Well, yeah,
do.
because now it keeps everybody else out. You don't have a
I
competition.
appreciate it very much. We do our best to make them satisfied.
Yeah. Well, I know I have friends that are teaching classes mainly for the commercial set, and they do it through various sources, through CCIM or through the North Texas Commercial Association, Realtors, et cetera. And what's interesting is that they don't have a place. The place moves around. They'll do it in a conference room of a building, of a business, of a title company, of a whatever. And so they're just getting their curriculum approved. The Real Estate Commission doesn't care where the actual class happens.
That's because they're a provider of CE. If you're not a provider of CE, but pre-licensing, yes, continuing education.
Okay.
If you're a provider of licensing, it's a whole different set of rules.
Oh, really?
It's much more stringent.
Okay,
and
I didn't realize
that. That I was telling you about is to be a provider on the pre-license side. So to get your license, you have, as I said, just a whole different group of forms and requirements. If you're a teacher and you've had experience like 4 years and you as well have had teaching experience for 4 years, you can send your application in and get an approval to be a teacher of continuing ed. Mm-hmm. And then you want to find a place that will allow you to do it. It's very different. So we do both. We did all the really difficult part of being a licensing provider.
Yeah.
And the easier part of being a continuing ed provider.
Okay. It never occurred to me that those had different requirements. So that does make sense now, because I know when I got my license, I got some of my classes through University of Texas at Arlington, where I got my undergrad degree, and then I had to take some additional classes. And I want to say I went through something called Leonard. Wasn't there a Leonard school at one time?
They are way gone.
Yeah, I knew they were long gone.
Exactly.
Because they did much more than real estate. They did like licensing for securities and everything else.
Securities, insurance, exactly.
Yeah, my wife went to them for insurance and other things that she used to be in.
Exactly.
So, and they were around, but yeah, I haven't seen or heard of them hadn't even thought about them until just now for
they've
a
been
very long time.
Gone, out of business for quite a while.
Interesting. So you finally get the state happy, the state being the Texas Real Estate Commission, happy. And how long was it from the time that you got this great idea until you actually held your first class in your own
It took
school?
About 7 months to be ready to open our doors and teach.
That's not too bad.
No.
I'm sure it seemed a lot longer at the time.
We had done so much preparation in advance. We'd already trained our teachers. We had our list of teachers, but actually, Bob, we didn't have enough money to pay teachers. So my former partner and I ended up teaching every course for a year, day, night, weekend. And when one of us wasn't teaching, the other one was registering, answering the phone, doing all of those activities. We had the business plan and the belief if we could manage for 1 year to do everything we needed to do to establish quality and get the recognition that if you go to Champion School of Real Estate, you're going to have a good experience. And we felt like with our background, both in real estate and both as teachers, we wanted to get in front of you and tell you how much we appreciate you being with us. And please tell your friends and neighbors. And we did that for a year.
Yeah.
And I told my family, if you'll just hang in there for a year, then it will continue to grow. And Mom will be much, much happier because her new business will be off the ground.
Easier to get along with.
Well, it was a busy year.
So during this time, are you still selling properties?
No.
So you're not trying to be an agent at this point?
Absolutely not.
I couldn't imagine how you could do it.
Growing our business.
I
And
mean,
you
to be
know,
a
we're the
young mom.
largest real estate school in Texas, and we're told the largest real estate school in the USA.
Yeah, I read something that said you were
Yeah,
the largest in the
exactly.
U.S.
And I love saying that because it tells agents you just start with one person. I mean, I'm proof positive just one person can grow their business.
Well, and to even go further than that, I mean, yes, you've been successful at that, but it's not just you saying that. But there are, I mean, you're on the National Association of Realtors REBAC Hall of Fame. You're in that. You're one of 50 top or most influential women in Houston, according to Houston Women magazine. You're one of the top 25 most nationally recognized women in real estate by Active Rain. I mean, so you're getting a lot of validation from, a lot of other sources.
Very
It's not
proud
just
of that.
you tooting your own horn.
I'm very proud of that. I'm so proud of many things. And one is that Abby Halliday, for example, in the Dallas area had so many offices.
Mm-hmm.
And she offered continuing ed. Abby Halliday took continuing ed with Champion School of Real Estate.
Oh, wow.
And she was one of our big promoters. I have 2 ukuleles that she signed. Just such a sweet person.
Was she known for playing the ukulele?
She was.
I didn't know that.
She was.
I would have loved to have seen that.
Who knows how to play the
That
ukulele?
tiny little woman playing that tiny little
Exactly.
instrument would have been fun.
And I'm so proud that as I personally taught courses in San Antonio, Austin, Fort Worth, Dallas, certainly Houston, Corpus Christi, Abilene, everywhere, they would say, if you'll open a Champion School of Real Estate, we'll make sure our agents come to your school. And that was from those agents and brokers at that time. And so at the appropriate time, Champions, we started expanding, and they were absolutely good at their word. So we have offices, brick and mortar, large brick and mortar schools in San Antonio, in Austin, and Fort Worth, right off of Camp Bowie,
Mm-hmm.
right off the tollway in North Dallas, actually off Coit Road in Plano.
Actually, in Plano, yeah.
And 3 campuses in Houston. And then in 2004, I snagged in some great people to do online. Our online is easy. It's great. It's just really very popular, especially with commercial agents.
Yeah.
And then my dream in 2016 was to make a teacher available internationally. So we built out 8 studios, and we have a teacher teaching to the world through a virtual link.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm teaching to you. You could be on vacation in Hawaii. I have all these people that come in. Maybe we have someone in the military that is stationed in Afghanistan. They're able to take their continuing ed or get their license anywhere in the world with the virtual
Wow.
studio and have a teacher.
Yeah.
So that has grown a lot because you can be in your pajamas, be at home, but still have a classroom teacher experience.
Absolutely. I mean, that's pretty amazing. So how long was it from the time you opened that first school before you opened the next school?
The second school was within the first 7 years.
Okay.
It was a second campus in Houston.
Okay.
The first one is where I still office, North Houston. The second was in the Galleria, more central. It's called the Uptown area of Houston.
Okay.
The third was Plano, or North Dallas, Preston Road, because I love my Plano roots.
Yes.
And then after that was San Antonio. After San Antonio was Austin. And then after Austin was Fort Worth.
And
In between that was the in-between, in the middle, the online, and then the virtual studios.
Okay.
But understand, I did not do that by myself.
Of course not. And we'll get to that after the break. We got to take another quick break.
Exactly.
So we'll get into more of that and after this break. And stick with us. In the meantime, go check them out, championschool.com. So your lease is going to expire in the future, and you're trying to figure out how soon should I start working on that? Is it 6 months or a year or 2 years before my lease expiration? Well, there isn't an exact date. This is Bob Gibbons with Rita Commercial Realty, and my clients always meet with me about 2 years before their expiration date, and we create a strategy. and then we review that strategy again a year later. And so we're always working toward what's right for them, not what they think might be an arbitrary date by which they need to figure this out. The keys in determining how much time you need are whether or not you're going to move, whether or not you need to expand, will there need to be construction on wherever you're going to go to, and all those things take more time. So do a strategy meeting a couple years out with your advisor, and that'll make things a lot more clear. For more information, please go to texastenantrep.com. That's texastenantrep.com. Welcome back. We're talking to Rita Santamaria, Champion School of Business. Or sorry, no, it is not. It's Champion School of Real Estate.
I want to say have business etiquette as a course.
I was expanding your horizons, and you didn't even ask for it. Championschool.com. So whenever you're building these brick and mortar campuses, how did you know how big to make them?
Based on our current enrollments and then using that particular historical data to know how much we grow per month, per year, and making sure there's room for growth in the next campus. Mm-hmm. So there really is a lot of mathematics that goes behind that, a lot of research, because I don't ever want to build a brick and mortar school and run out of space from the time we open our doors.
Yeah. Well, and they're also very expensive to build. I mean, the one you have in Plano, for example, I know is, what is that building? Probably 10,000 square feet, maybe?
It's about 14? About 14,000 square feet. The one in Austin we just built is 21,000 square feet.
Oh, wow.
We're getting ready to build a new one in Houston at around 21,000 square feet.
And you got to have way more parking than normal.
Oh, my gosh.
I mean, every
Landlords
room is
hate us. They do. You would hate us as a tenant rep.
No, I wouldn't hate you, but it takes a specialized building.
We take up so much parking, and I will never build or open a location where there isn't plenty of parking.
Yeah, because normally right now,
customers don't like that.
Like your building in Plano is sort of what we call an office condo type construction, which normally would only have 3 parking spaces for every 1,000 square feet.
Exactly.
Whenever a normal build, maybe 4 per 1,000. If they're trying to get medical, maybe 5 per 1,000. You probably need 10 per 1,000 or more.
We, for example, we don't ever open a school without 200 parking spaces minimum.
I would bet.
The one in Austin has over 300 and some parking spaces. That's just to take care of our people per day. The one that we're building in Houston, we're relocating to the Grand Parkway. That one will have a minimum of 300 parking spaces. And even at that, we have to juggle our typical large classes so that they're not hitting on the same day. But we're open 7 days a week, and being open 7 days a week, all day, and then also we have evening classes. The evening classes as well, we'll use at least 100 to 150 parking spaces at night.
Yeah.
So parking is number one for us.
Well, I just had my actually it was my broker responsibility course. So to renew my license, I had to take certain classes, just MCE, they called it, mandatory continuing education. But then because I license a company and have other agents under me, I had to take the broker responsibility course. So I did the second part. I did the first part in through the North Texas Commercial Association Realtors, because it was more of a commercial class. But the broker responsibility course I took through Champions.
Thank you.
And trying to get parking actually was pretty easy that day. But I've been there before when it hasn't been so easy because, man, you guys have a ton of people.
We are such good neighbors. What we do is we have a lot of other condo businesses in our area that may only use, like a dentist, may only use 6 parking spaces ongoing all day long, max 8. And whenever we know we're going to have an overflow, we go next door and we say to them, we're happy to pay you because we need some extra parking for the next 2 days.
Oh, wow.
And they know us so well after all these years, 10 years in our new beautiful location there. And they'll say, of course. And then we pay them to allow us to use some of their parking. And then Atlas Energy is next door.
Atmos,
yes. Right. And at Atmos, they are so kind, and they always say, oh, we're not using part of our parking for training. come on over if you need it. It's not consistently that we need it, but it's enough that we figured out how to make sure you're comfortable.
But all that parking adds a huge amount of cost to that building compared to the same building if it were just a standard office use.
Absolutely.
So your cost to have all this brick and mortar is a pretty expensive proposition and puts you to some extent at a little bit of a competitive disadvantage against the online only that don't have to create that infrastructure.
I love you said that. I know that 55% of my customer base wants brick and mortar.
Because they want a teacher in front that they can talk to.
They want a teacher. They want to be able to hear your experience as another associate in the classroom. They love it. And because we know they love it, we will always have brick and mortar, even though it is so much more expensive than an online company. Therefore, the online providers tend to charge less because they don't have the overhead.
Yeah.
And yet our quality, and then we give you every option available that suits you to take your class.
Yeah.
We have online. It's great. We have brick and mortar. We now have virtual classroom. And then for a lot of our long-timers, they like to sit at home with a notebook or go to the local library and have a librarian or a notary proctor them, and they sit and they do their class at home.
Those people are dying off. That you're not going to need to do that in 5 years.
They truly are. And my online people are like, that'll be easier for us than not.
So what's the difference between a virtual classroom and online?
Virtual, you are able to be at home or at your company office, but you have a teacher teaching you.
Live.
You
So
have to be dressed. The very first course I taught myself. I wanted to see how it was going to work. So I'm in my studio, and I see on my screen 50 people come in.
Oh.
You can have more than that, but I had about 50 that came into that course. And the very first person was very scantily clad in her pajamas. Not realizing that all the other 49 people could see her.
Oh.
And that I could see her, and there's regular interaction. So right away, our course coordinator, we always have coordinators watching and making sure that your audio and video is good. They instantly blacked her out, sent her an email, and said, everybody can see you.
Oh, my goodness.
So we do have some rules. You do have to be dressed appropriately for the course.
Yeah.
And we get to see your pets while we're teaching because they sometimes are in your lap. A lot of our very determined smokers love it because they can take their class and smoke at home.
How funny.
But that's the difference. You have a teacher, and yet you can do it at your convenience wherever you want to take a class.
Yeah.
With online, you have great graphics, you have good information, you have video that is also plugged into your online. Mm-hmm. So it's not just reading material. You've got the video as well.
Wow.
So it's just another alternative.
I think it's cool that you guys have 4 different ways to deliver the content and to give that student the ultimate thing they're looking for. And you have 4 different ways of doing it. That creates more cost, but it also reaches different people.
It's totally about you.
Yeah.
We want you to be happy and satisfied.
And I can tell you from personal experience, I can take the classes online only through one of these providers, and believe me, I can't tell you how many emails a month I get from these online providers. And they, of course, know when my license is coming up because that's public information. So I start getting hammered with all this stuff. And my license actually expires at the end of July of this year. I've already renewed it now, so hopefully this will trail off. But I would get dozens a week.
Exactly.
And it was so cheap. I could have gotten my whole package of what I needed to renew for about $38.
There's very little invested by the owner. And
it's an upfront cost and then they're done.
Invest because we're in it for the long haul. This is my 36th year in business.
Nice.
And people don't even look at those emails they get. They walk in the door and say, Rita, did you know I got 15 companies wanting my business? Mm-hmm. Delete, because I've always been a champion. I will always be a champion. And we've been in it. we have what we call the champion's advantage. It's about you. What delivery do you want? We report everything to the state at no charge. You lose your certificate, you lose something, we replace it for you. It's just the other service that we do ongoing that people are so familiar with. And
Yeah.
they know they're going to get everything reported timely, accurately. We take that responsibility so seriously with our national and state agencies. It's
Well,
going to be right.
And the takeaway I have from all this is that I will pay to go to the North Texas Commercial Association classes because they're totally commercial, and everybody in the class is commercial. And in many cases, I know some of those people. So the conversation is 100% about commercial. I will pay double, and I do pay double for that class what I could get from other sources, including Champions, for the same, not the same class, but the same renewal credit as
Well, I
MCE.
do want you to know, because when my staff is listening to this, they're going to say, Rita, you did tell Bob, we do have a total 100% commercial
Okay.
CE class.
All right.
And you may know the instructor, Rick Eichler. I don't know if you know
Rick used to work for me.
No way.
Yeah.
Well, Rick is the instructor.
Oh, well, then I'll never come. I'm kidding. Rick's a good guy.
And have you ever seen him dance? He's also a major dancer.
I have seen the video. I never want to see that again. I think he worked at one of those clubs that ladies go to for their bachelorette party.
He went to UT. He is such a good guy.
That is too
And
funny.
it is such a small world,
Oh,
as
it
we've
is.
talked about so many times. But yes, we do have commercial all over Texas. In each of our major metros, we have commercial CE class.
That's awesome. Well, I guess my only point is I would rather come to a class in person and maximize the value of that day
I agree.
by going to a commercial class for me. But if it's not a commercial class, like the broker responsibility, I would still rather come and do that in person than online, because if I do it in person, number one, I get the conversation with other people, I get to meet people, so there's a little bit of a networking aspect of it. But I know myself. If I'm sitting there in front of an online class, I have 3 screens on my desk. I'll have that going on one screen, and I'll be still working on these other 2 screens. So the value I'm getting from that class is pretty much non-existent. And if I'm in the classroom, I'm paying attention, I'm engaged, and I just think it's a way better experience. And also, at the end of that day, I know I'm done with that. I don't have to go. I'll procrastinate on the online till the last minute.
Everybody procrastinates, Bob.
Everybody does. Well, we're going to have to take another quick break. Be back right after this. Welcome back to the Next Level Show. We are getting wisdom from Rita Santamaria, Champions School of Real Estate founder. And check them out, championschool.com. So, Rita, one thing I'm interested in is that you were a school teacher, which is pretty highly regulated and managed, and you had a lot of people around you. And you went into real estate, which is notoriously unstructured and not a lot of guidance from your broker necessarily. I mean, some brokers are pretty hands-on, but a lot of them are not. How do you make that switch from being highly structured to highly unstructured, and then you go back into a business which has to be highly structured again? Were you searching for structure whenever you started the school, or was that not really a factor in your mind?
That's a very deep question.
Well, that's unusual for me.
No one's ever asked me that. I think I loved the freedom of being a real estate broker.
Mm-hmm.
I love the freedom of being able to raise 5 children and grow a business to be as large as it is, and to know that I could do that. So that's what I loved about real estate, and that's why it's easy for me to walk into a classroom and say, you can do it all. It's just up to you and how you set the appointments for your day. I absolutely believe that my teaching background, and if you look at a personality profile, that being able to be a little bit analytical helps everybody. And if you're not an analytical that can have a lot of structure, you need to hire an assistant to help you with that. Because as an agent, you need a lot of the drive and a lot of the high influential to be with people and interact with them. So I would have to say I was really just striving to be able to teach. It was very naive and very basic. I just wanted to teach adults real estate. I loved teaching and I loved real estate. And therefore, it became a wonderful passion that even in the bad times of not making any money starting out for so long, I was still driven by my passion of what
Yeah.
I loved.
So how did it go from you wanting to teach to you having dozens and if not hundreds of teachers around the state?
Two ways. Number one, I had truly that defining moment driving back from Corpus Christi in about 93. And the brokers there, I just taught a course and they said, "And when are you coming back?" And my brain said, "I personally will not be coming back. I have got to grow my business." And I went back to my headquarters, my office, and told the people that worked with me, I won't be teaching in the classroom again. I need to concentrate on growing my business.
Yeah.
And about that time, my daughter Kimberly graduated from Louisiana Tech University, degree in marketing. She said, "Mom, I want to join Champions." I actually told her she needed to work for someone else first before working for a family member, her mom.
Good.
That lasted about 2 weeks when she knew I was interviewing for someone.
Oh, no, you shouldn't tell her that.
On a Sunday, she arrived at our front door. She was living with a couple of girlfriends in an apartment, and she had her resume, and 4 hours later, I hired her. And that was probably the best thing I ever did. Because
So what was her job?
her job was to help me grow and expand.
Oh, and she was going to be your assistant,
Yes, yes.
your right hand.
So we started with the second location in the Galleria, and she would man that particular school while she was learning, and I was truly cloning her. 21 years later, this August, she became the president of the company 5 years ago.
Oh, nice.
And helped me expand to San Antonio. She moved with her little family to San Antonio to grow a campus there. And then when I already had Dallas going, but she knew I wanted to open in Fort Worth. It's such a great city, and it's growing by leaps and bounds. So she moved back to this region. She was a toddler when I was an agent here. She said she was going back to her roots, although she doesn't remember anything about her time here. But then she moved and we opened Fort Worth. And then when I wanted to combine Austin, the campus, and the online, build a new building and really make that hill country bigger, then she moved from the Dallas area. She actually lived in Frisco.
Okay.
And just last summer, she and her family moved to Georgetown.
Oh, nice place to live.
So she is my right arm, and she operates the company. I promise you, it's as though she were walking in my footsteps, and that's been a huge help.
So I got to believe you have sort of a location manager, somebody that's overall responding for each location.
Has awesome managers.
How many people do you guys train a year, a month, whatever?
I can tell you per year we train well over, with continuing ed pre-licensing, well over 30,000.
Wow, that's incredible.
And
so what is the message that you give those people? I mean, how do they?
The message is, don't give up. I made no money. I taught classes to pay my other teachers after the second year.
Oh my.
And there were times that I thought, am I ever going to make any money? And yet I loved what I was doing, that I just kept believing in myself. So with new people, I love it that I can say to them, I am proof positive. I am an example of, it's going to take you at least 2 full good years to get established. Don't give up on yourself. If this is your dream, I promise you, most people do not get up in the morning and suit up and get dressed to be a success.
Mm-hmm.
That's the problem. So if you have self-motivation to consider your new career as an entrepreneur as a career, you get up, you hit the road running every day.
Yeah.
I never thought I had an option to sleep in. I never thought I had an option not to show up. I never gave myself that option. And that's my message. Whether
Yeah.
it's loan officer, inspector, appraiser, real estate, broker, commercial, residential, don't give up on yourself. If this is your dream, keep after it.
Yeah, I agree with you. And I tell people as well that even if you're going to office from home, get up, set your alarm, get out and go take a run, whatever you're going to do in the morning.
Absolutely.
Get dressed, put on your work clothes.
Yes.
Because I can't tell you how many times my day doesn't turn out the way I thought it was going to start. And, there's many days that I'll have nothing on the calendar, and then I end up running out the door at 9:30, and I don't get back until 4. And so I have to be dressed right away
Ready to
because
go.
things will change. And even if I
Exactly.
don't leave, I still am ready. I know I'm ready, and it changes your mindset.
Exactly.
So you
And
got to
then
do it.
find a mentor. If you're a new person, find someone like a Bob that you can look at, watch, listen to, learn from. Take courses, as many courses as you can. The more you learn, the more you earn. The National Association of Realtors has the stats on that.
Mm-hmm.
So keep learning, and look at successful people and find out what they do to make themselves successful.
We were talking about Rick Eichler earlier. Another guy that used to work for me is Trey Bates. And Trey
I
Bates
know
is,
Trey
you know
very
Trey
well.
So
Yes.
you should, because he's the chairman of the Texas Association of Realtors right now.
He is awesome.
So he was a great guy. I loved him. He's from Corpus Christi, and I was very surprised that he mentioned me in the article in the Texas Realtor magazine whenever they were interviewing him when he was coming in, and he said some nice things about me,
Wow.
which shocked me. So I was thank you very much, Trey. That
You're
was
a nice guy.
Well, there are days. So, what is the one of the biggest or scariest business risks that you faced that failed and you wish you hadn't done or that you learned
There
from?
was one humongous failure. And it was at the point we were ready to really upgrade our registration system. And we as a team, my managers, and we interviewed a couple of companies, and we did something you should never do. I took the low bid.
Oh,
The low bid actually was a chunk of money to me. And it was a company out of Canada that was going to write our wonderful registration program. And we paid them. We thought it was working properly. It didn't. And it was so difficult just to cut it off and just incur our huge loss. They didn't stay in business very long, as you can imagine. So we got nothing back other than a huge learning lesson.
yeah.
And to this day, I can still see that check, that huge check I wrote, that I could have just taken it and burned it with a match because we got nothing from it.
And I wish
But
I
it
could
made
say
me a better person.
I've heard this from other people. So I mean, so it sounds like it was custom. Something
It
that was
was
being custom for you.
Totally custom.
Yeah, and that there's nothing wrong with custom, of course, but how you pay that person has to be very carefully structured so that you're
Exactly.
not giving them all that up front and then you never see it again.
Exactly.
Oh, that's,
It was a huge learning lesson. There are many lessons you don't want to have to learn from. That was one of them.
I agree. Well, so tell us, what are some of the biggest risks facing your industry right now?
Every time the legislature meets, we know
Scary,
that
isn't it?
something's going to change. We know that you may get more hours that you have to take, which means we have to change up our curriculum. Anytime the federal government decides something about mortgage lending, it affects us. It affects our courses, how we write them. It affects all of our forms and such. But truly, Bob, what really affects our market the most are cycles. And you and I both know, and you and I both have gone through a couple of down cycles.
I wish it was just two.
And exactly. They are not fun, but having gone through 3 very significant cycles, I love it because I'm able to say we can come out of that cycle, we'll learn from that cycle, and we'll actually be okay when it's in the down cycle.
Gotcha. Well, Rita, we're unfortunately out of time, so we're going to have to close it down. But thank you so much for being our guest today. We've really learned a lot and enjoyed talking to you.
Thank you
Guests,
so much, Bob.
please go to championschool.com to learn more. Sign up for classes. They provide great classes. They have great teachers. They're people that actually have real experience, and that's what makes a huge difference. If you want to learn more about the show, go to thenextlevelshow.com. Find us on podcast, leave a review, and we'll be back next week with another great guest.